Welcome back. You're listening to Continuous Chaos with Scott and Chelsea.
And we can't even introduce it without talking over each other, so there's that. That's fun.
I've got no cues anymore because I'm not looking at your face. It's weird.
I know,
just have to kind of
really
talk
hard.
and trust that.
When I know that you're it's seeing somebody, we take it for granted how many cues you get when you talk to someone in person.
And I think that was part of it, like we were talking about in the last episode, how recording this online changes the way that we kind of talk, where there's a much more of a kind of back and forth conversation as opposed to when we kind of just talk over each other in the earlier episodes. And it's that same sort of thing where I don't really know when to start talking, and I have to be really deliberate about, or more deliberate, I guess, about what I'm saying, because I don't want to leave a gap where you think I've finished a thought or am passing it off to you in the middle of my idea or something like that. I don't know. It's weird.
It is weird, and because we talk almost so fast normally, it might make it better in the sense that it's more conversational, but it's worse in the sense that, to avoid the exact example you gave, we're both talking faster, or we're just using more filler words.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting process. I'm kind of interested to see if this starts bleeding out into my regular speech, or when I'm out and about and talking to people, if this is gonna start change the way that I'm thinking about conversations. You
mean we'll actually start listening to other people and conversing?
Yeah. I think I do a pretty good job when I'm talking to people, but maybe I'll start doing a better job. I don't know. I'll let you know in a few months or something, I guess, if there's been any meaningful change. I'm not going to remember that. I don't know why I said that.
Are you going to give people feedback forms?
Yeah, there'll be a survey monkey that goes out after every interaction.
I love that. That's so funny. I actually did something today, which I don't know if I should admit to it because it's kind of stupid. I was going to say embarrassing, but it's not embarrassing. It's just dumb.
Well, if you don't say something,
now I have to tell you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you don't say something, I and the audience are gonna just fill in something for you, and you'll probably like it way less than whatever it was.
Okay, well, so I'm gonna tell you what I did, but this is going to be the episode that I hope my future roommate doesn't listen to, because if anyone's going to think this is stupid or is going to roll their eyes at me and be like, oh my God, Chelsea, you're so I feel like she would be on the one hand, I feel like she would react to this you're so Chelsea, and that could either be good, or she would just kind of shake her head and be like, yeah, I'm not at all surprised.
It would either be exactly that's so Chelsea, or oh, that's so Chelsea.
Right. But I don't actually know if she would be surprised. Her judgment of it, I think she'd be like, yeah, that sounds about right. But it is ridiculous. And the reason it's embarrassing is because, not that anyone, well, no one's going to listen to this, but if anyone involved were to be listening, I wouldn't want to make anyone mad, because I technically fucked with statistical metrics.
Okay.
So I'm this is me being a rebel. For everyone who's wondering what kind of person I am, this is what I look at as rebellion. I was looking, so our realtor sent us this new posting, and it's in one of the neighborhoods that we're eyeing. And I've gone back and forth a lot on this particular neighborhood because of where it's located and because of how relatively new it is. So there's not a lot of entrances into it yet, and so the ones that there are kind of sketchy, or would be a little bit concerning driving on them in the winter. There's all these factors that my future roommate and I have considered, and I think we were sort of leaning towards a different part of the city as our ideal location. But there's been more often than not, the houses in this other place, they end up fitting more of the things that we want. And so it seems more realistic that that's actually how it's going to shake out.
Okay.
So I was just I kind of was doing research today to figure out how I could get on board with this, or really what our quality of life would be if we kind of settled on location. And she is like the most easygoing person on the planet. So like she doesn't really care to the degree that I do about this stuff. Like I'll do research for like hours and then text her all these things in a row and be like, well, I read this about this, and I read this about this. And like she's just like chill. Like I really think she's like, if we're alive and if there's like a house and if I have a room and you know, like if my dog doesn't eat her shit, like I think that she would be happy pretty much anywhere.
So it's
She's
like
super
4
easygoing.
walls, a roof, and dog doesn't eat shit.
Yeah, and like the stuff that I'm worried about is like I mean, she is a very logical, rational person. So I mean, she's totally gonna like listen to this and be like, "You're not allowed to talk about me on the podcast anymore."
We haven't even given her a name, or she hasn't given herself a name. Like, so like honestly, we could.
She doesn't even know. She doesn't even know if I'm talking about her. That's what I'm going to hide behind. I'm going to be like, "How do you know I was talking about you?"
Yeah, exactly.
I was talking about this other person that I'm going to live with. No,
I was about to say like a name that rhymed with her name, and I realized that was just
right.
Bad.
That's not great. That actually doesn't help me with the denial.
Not even a little bit. But I stopped myself.
And like,
so
not very many things rhyme with her name either. So like, you couldn't make it more obvious.
Yeah, that's actually all of the rhymes that I'm thinking of in my head like still contain her name as a particle. Is really the only way to make that work.
So I know that I can't deny that I'm talking about her, but I'll try if she's offended by anything I'm saying. But I don't think she would be. Like I'm saying, like she's like the most easygoing person ever. And like I'm so lucky to be able to live with her because like I don't like two people that are as picky as I am about the stupid shit I'm picky about. Like those two people couldn't be roommates. The only reason this will work is because like it's not to say she doesn't care about stuff, but the stuff that she cares about and the stuff that I care about, they don't overlap or eclipse each other. And that's why it's perfect because like the stuff that she's like,
yeah, if you both
like
got super fired up about the same thing, like that is the potential for friction, but
it would work. And like, actually that's like just like relationships in general. And like, I'm not ashamed to say that she's like probably my healthiest relationship, like overall in my life. And it probably has to do with the fact that we're easygoing about the stuff the other person gets fired up about.
Right.
But like that solved the world. Like if you want friendships to work or relationships to work, just like being similar in too many ways is like a crock. Like I don't get that whole thing. And I'm not just talking about like relationships or like intimate partnerships, like in anything. The idea that like you have to be the same as someone is so like old. It's like, it's such old backwards thinking.
I think that it can work, but I think that there's also a large chance of it not for all of the reasons that we just said.
I think I should preface that though by like, or clarify it. I preface everything. I'm trying not to use that word as much because it's losing meaning.
You'll qualify.
The criteria. Yes, but I'm going to qualify it. That's a good word. That I think that like in terms of values, like, and I think that there's psychology behind this, and this is kind of more what people ascribe to now, is that what we're arguing is that you can be different in all of the superficial ways, and the similarities count in the values and the morals and stuff like that. And just like, I guess like commonality and like viewpoints of the world, but like hobbies or like in the case of like living with someone, I think maybe it was my misconception that like that living with someone had more to do with values than not. And as it turns out, like our values about say like the finances that'll be shared as a result of being roommates, we're really on par with that. And so it makes it work. But like her wanting a really big closet is like, okay, like because I don't have as much clothes as her. And I also like, it's not something that I'm like super
it's not a hill that you're willing
about.
To fight for.
Yeah, no, it's not the hill. And also I have a bunch of other hills. So I have to be respectful of that because I'm bringing a rabbit and a dog with me. So like whether like the fact that she's like super easygoing, I don't take that for granted. But even if she wasn't, like, I still have to be respectful of the fact that from the get-go, before we even talk about like who gets what room or preferences in the house. I'm already bringing like 2 other living creatures into her life that she hasn't had before.
And you
so I get that, like,
and you haven't even started the bunny room yet.
Well, exactly. Yeah, like that ship has sailed. But like technically, that's funny because part of the like floor plans we're looking at is the ideal is that we'd have a flex space upstairs where the bunny cage could go, so that the bunny's not in my room with me. So like little things like that I'm just like, I need a flex space, and I need like, and yeah, like my roommate will be able to obviously use those areas too. We'll have like whatever, like a couch or a desk or something, like a shared space. But for me to be like, I don't want the bunny in my room, and I've got the dog, and she needs a place for her bed downstairs. And like, I'm just like, I'm listing all these things I need. And she's like, I don't know, like I need a closet that's big, and I need like, yeah, like she's super chill.
That's good. That's something that you want in a roommate. Speaking as someone who also has a roommate.
I'm very grateful about how chill she is. Yeah, so anyway, because she's so chill, I think as a result, I seem less chill about a lot of stuff, which is not wrong. But stuff like, yeah, like the entrances to the neighborhood, and like the location, and just like the little kind of things where I'm like, will this affect us? Like, and I'll just sit and I'll like overanalyze this stuff forever, where she's like, well, like, I like this, and I'm going to look at the positive, and the negatives will just make it work. Whereas I'm like, no, I need to like do research, and I need to like read stuff about it, and I need to talk it to death with everybody. So yeah, I'm an exhausting person, and I'm really glad that she loves me enough to live with me. But this place, so I know I just went off on a huge tangent, but hi, roommate, if you're listening, you're awesome and you're great. And this has basically just been a love letter to her.
It's but the actual point I was apologizing about this, because you were really only saying nice things about her all the way through this.
I know. I think I'm just sorry that I'm talking about her so much. I feel like in the same vein of like not using people's names, I'm like, I don't know if we have their permission to talk about them at all, if that makes sense.
Yeah, okay. I see where you're coming from.
So I guess I'm just sorry that like the world knows that she exists insofar as she's my future roommate and one of my best friends. I
kind of took it as like a tacit agreement when you put up that brainstorming sheet in the group chat, and they read it and then didn't say any, like they didn't say anything one way or the other, but they also didn't say, hey, can you leave me out of this? So if you're listening now, group, let me know, because I'll stop talking about you, but I really can't take back what we've already said and post it.
Yeah, exactly. So, and also it's like we did give them, I think, enough leeway to say one way or another. But yeah, we don't want to say bad things about you guys. So like, if you think that not giving us a name to call you is going to like give us permission to, you know, like one way or the other, like we're not going to just be like, great, this person gave us a name, so let's like bash them on the podcast. Like, we love you all, and you're the only listeners we have, so
we just only have one person to bash currently. Dilemma.
And we've never done that because you're a beautiful human, so that should be proof in itself. She's like the guinea pig who gave us something to call her. And I think the worst thing we said about her is that she lives on the other side of the planet from me. That's the worst thing I've said about her.
It's really inconvenient.
But you know what? I live on the other side of the planet from her, and that's, I'm sure, very inconvenient for her. And that's fair. So yeah, I have no idea what the fuck I was saying. Oh yeah, so maybe the reason I was like really just laying that on is because of this like really stupid thing that I did today that I actually like spent, I don't know, I probably spent like 15 or 20 minutes on this survey. But okay. I was doing this like research for this, and this neighborhood, it doesn't have like, it's new enough that it doesn't have a lot of like community support yet. So there's a lot of like needs assessments happening and stuff. And like, if I'm being honest, that's something that almost appeals to me more. There's a small part of me that's like, do I want to live in a neighborhood that's like so new that it doesn't have that kind of infrastructure or like community involvement yet? But because I'm me, I actually lean towards thinking that I'd prefer that, because it would be really hard for me not to get involved anyway. And so I'd probably get involved regardless of where we live in the community.
So this way,
and if it was
you're
newer,
in on the ground floor and you can help shape some of that.
yeah, and I mean, yeah, exactly. And into the discussion of how like I want to be part of like the dystopian world that reshapes the world. Like this is that on a much less depressing, much more realistic scale. Yeah, so like it appeals to me.
So the thing that you did, just to be clear, was you filled out a really long survey?
I did, yeah. But like, and if you put it that way, it sounds really innocent. But like, I was halfway into the survey, and I was like really stressing myself out because I started it, and I'm like, at first I was like, I had a moral issue where I was like, should I even do this? Because it's publicly available. It didn't ask for like an address or a postal code. So like, at no point in the survey did I technically lie. And morally speaking, that was really important to me. I was like, in order to press submit, I need to make sure that I'm not actually outright lying. And like, it was very clever. Of me. I don't think that the people who wrote it were purposely like, let's make it really easy for someone who's very like morally inclined to fill this out without guilt. I don't think that's why they wrote it the way they did. But it wasn't like, it was just like, how long have you lived here? And that was really the only, I guess it asked like what kind of dwelling you were in. But because I know what kind we're going to be buying, that was easy to answer.
Right.
So technically that was the only lie. Yeah, so I guess I did. That's a lie. But I said 2 years or less when it said how long have you lived here?
That's true. You do fall into the less category.
That is true. It's exactly true. So I don't know. I'm kind of proud of myself in a way. But like the lame part about it is that like I was stressed out about the fact that I was filling it out. I was stressed out about the fact that I felt that I had to fill it out. Because it's closing soon. Like there was a timeline here, and
there was some time pressure on the situation.
Yeah, on the off chance that I am going to end up living there. And that's the other thing that was stressing me out, because I was like, I'm having all of these like moral like anxieties, and my family was kind of like making fun of me because I'm like, I'm doing a survey to better a community that I don't now and may never live in. And then once I got past that hurdle and it's asking questions about like, what do you want to see? I was like, oh my God, like, do I answer for like now, or do I answer for like the future? Like, do I answer and say I want dog parks because I have a dog? Or do I answer and I'd be like, well, eventually, like, we don't know, maybe one of us is going to end up staying in the house and like, we'll actually like, we'll rent it, or we'll use it as an income property, or like one of us will stay there with a family in the future. Like maybe I'm going to want playgrounds and like schools for the kids. Like, I'm like, I don't have a partner. I may never actually want or have kids. And I'm like, and I don't actually live here in this neighborhood. Let's be very clear about the fact that ignoring all that other stuff, I don't live there. And I'm like, do I answer for my dog, or do I answer for my hypothetical family that might never happen? About a house that I'm planning to buy with my roommate. Like, it was the most ridiculous experience.
And just for my own curiosity, how long was the survey actually, like in terms of questions and everything? Like, what was the total length of the survey?
It was like medium. Like, it wasn't like 3 questions.
Okay.
But if you're asking, like, did I take longer to do it than I should have? Absolutely, yeah.
Right. Okay. I was just.
But you already knew that.
I did. Yeah. I'm just like thinking about this, and this isn't really totally related, except for the fact that like a survey was filled out. But this was just really reminding me of I came home one night a while back, and my roommate was in the common area, and she was on her computer and she was filling out a survey. And when I asked her what it was because she had just gone to a show, and they had sent out a survey because they wanted to just find out like what they thought about the show, like would they like to see similar shows, like all that stuff, like just kind of demographic information. And she had started it just to kind of fill out and leave her feedback like a good person who gets a survey does, that I very rarely do. And she was still filling it out when I got home, and I believe at that point it had been a not inconsiderable amount of time. And the reason that she wanted to continue filling it out was because the survey was like so long that the only thing she wanted to fill out by the end of it was the additional comments and questions field, so that she could tell them that their survey was too long. And I thought that was really funny.
I love your roommate. She's hilarious.
Yeah,
that's
she's
something that everyone should do. Yeah, that's great. I approve of that.
Yeah, that was a pretty solid moment.
Like, mostly I approve of it because, like, that fits very well. Like, the kind of person who's going to fill out a long ass survey just to complain about how long it is like, that person exists in a world where it's okay for someone to provide insight on a community that they might never live in. Like, that, it fits. I like that.
Yeah, there's more of you out there is what I'm trying to get at, I guess.
I appreciate that, yes. Well, my dad said, his analogy was, that's like me buying dog food for a dog that I might not get. And I'm like, that is not like that at all. I'm like, okay, if you're going to take and he walked away. So, like, I couldn't, so you guys get to suffer. But what I would want to say was, like, if you have the dog, like, if you never get the dog, other people could use the dog food. Like you could give away the dog food. You could sell the dog food. Like, there's things you could do with the dog food.
Well, and also that's wasted resources on his part. Like, he spent money on something that he knew he didn't need to use. Like, he invested into something that has no function for him. Yeah.
This is exactly the opposite of what I'm doing. Whereas what I'm doing is I'm thinking ahead, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe I never live there. And maybe this is the part where I feel guilty. If I never end up living there, and now my feedback has skewed it, which, like, it can't. Statistically, one person is not going to affect it to that degree, because that's just not how math works. But, like, hoping that lots of people have filled it out, that is also how math works. Mm-hmm. But, like, I'm not too concerned about it. But that was where the stress of, like, how I should answer really came into it, because I wouldn't want to skew it unfairly as someone who doesn't live there and might never live there. But, like, I just kept thinking kind of selfishly that, like, this is my chance. And if we ended up buying a house there, I would be really mad that I didn't have the opportunity to get in when all of this, like, this seems like a very important time for this community right now. In the last few months, they've done a lot of groundwork, and they're making real decisions about how they're going to shape this community and where they're going to be putting that money. And I understand that it would be ridiculous for me to, like, potentially buy a house there in, say, like, 3 months, and then be like, here is all of the proposed plans. And for me to be like, excuse me, I was not asked about this. You did not inform me. Like, they'd be like, yeah, lady, because, like, you didn't exist. Like, 4 months ago, you didn't live here.
It would have been irresponsible for you not to leave that data point in their survey.
Thank you. Exactly. I'm helping them. I'm helping future me. And the only way that I'm a bad person is if I don't end up living there ever. And you know what? Also, if they don't like dog parks, but if there's people there that do, you know what? What about the people who don't have time to do this survey? The people who would have answered it similar to me, and I just help them, even if I never lived there. It's a public service that I did.
It's a public good. Yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
So the reason that
my
we
roommate
started,
is still going to hear this.
It's true. Yeah.
And he's going to think I'm crazy.
So the reason that we started doing this episode, or that we started recording this episode, was because we wanted to address some things that we'd brought up in past episodes and then never spoken to. And now we're 25 minutes in, and we haven't even addressed the purpose of this episode. So I think that's in keeping with the spirit of this podcast. And I just wanted to provide...
Sorry. I did not know that would take that long to talk about.
No, that's fine. Like I said, I feel like that is very much in the spirit of this podcast.
Okay, so I want to know from our listeners, if anybody like just in the comments, let us know if you've ever done anything that's like similar to what I did or what Scott's roommate did. Like, have you ever done a survey that like you had no business doing just for shits and giggles? Even as I say that, that's like the lamest question ever. Like, who would? It's like, yes. What other rebels out there do surveys without permission?
But consider that the people listening to this podcast, odds are at least some of them are that same type of person. Like attracts.
And I want to hear
right?
those stories.
Even though we just spent a whole thing talking about how sometimes being the same isn't a good thing. If you are like-minded, throw us a story either in the comments or at thoughts@continuouschaos.ca. Maybe
and we'll talk about it. And I will. You better bet I'll talk about it because I'll be so friggin' excited that there's other people as crazy as I am. And you know what? My future roommate will not be one of them. I highly doubt, even just, for posterity's sake, for her not to be like, because I feel like this is a story she's going to want to make fun of me about. Because as I was doing it, I was like, this is ridiculous. And also, I can never tell her that I spent such a ridiculous amount of time looking at fireplace options, because this is what I do. Every time a realtor sends us a house, I have to like research everything that's related that I might have to do if that house ends up being the house. And this one has a nook for a fireplace, but it doesn't actually have a built-in fireplace. So I was, of course, researching local places that do fireplaces. And I was like screenshotting pictures so that I could show them to my future roommate, eventually when we decide to buy this house. That probably won't happen. And that's all true. I have screenshots of like probably 20 fireplaces on my phone that I have no need to show her. Only if and until this is a problem. Yeah, but I have them just in case. I mean, I'm nothing if not prepared.
I'm picturing
wondering.
I'm trying to remember or like think of a specific character or something, but it's like that the trope of like the person who just has like a binder ready to go at like every opportunity. Leslie Knope from Parks and Rec. That's a good one. Just like super prepared for every eventuality. That's what I'm thinking. That's where my mind is right now.
I'm not. Like I can't even play that trope properly because I'm that person. But as you know from our conversation where we're not recording, I'm both incredibly organized and incredibly disorganized. Like I have all of these permutations and all of these like eventuality kind of like preparations, but I'm not 100% positive that I could find them at a moment's notice because I'm not that organized.
They just exist.
It's so bad.
They're there.
Yeah, they're there. And then I can be like, what actually it helps me with is if somebody says like they bring something up, or if say, when our friends get together this week, like if somebody, they wouldn't, but just hypothetically, if someone were to be like, so I've been thinking a lot about fireplaces lately, then I could be like, oh, I was looking into that and I have all these ideas. I wouldn't be able to necessarily show it to anybody, but at least I could contribute to the conversation.
I am going to do my best to work that into a conversation this week. When
great.
Together.
So then
I'll just find.
I was going to say, like, for anybody wondering, this is the kind of fireplaces I like, but I'm just not going to do that. I'm going to let you wait. We can talk about it.
Shit.
Wait. I'm going to leave everybody wondering. And seriously,
about your fireplace feelings.
If everyone is curious about my fireplace preferences, that's bad. But maybe we can get a hashtag started or trending on that.
I'm going to buy like 100 YouTube comments asking about your fireplace options or your fireplace preferences.
What would my hashtag be? Like something clever like they do on like TV shows where they're like, who died on this show? Like, would it be like what fireplace does Chelsea want? Or something more clever. Let's get that trending.
I think, yeah. What fireplace does Chelsea want? Oh, I'm gonna go tweet that right now. Just give me a second.
If it was a TV show, it would just be hashtag what fireplace.
It's true, yeah, that would be, because then it's like really like ambiguous, and that makes people want to investigate like what this hashtag is that a million people are tweeting about.
Yeah, so by halfway through this week, when like the internet blows up, because like it'll be like the dress thing, like it'll be something so benign and boring, but like it'll make it around the world, and people will be like, "We need to know about the fireplaces."
Just for my curiosity, did you see the dresses blue and black or white and gold?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I know that that's not an interesting enough answer, but I actually don't remember.
Fine. I just when that happened, it caused like an existential crisis in one of my friends, and it was really funny. So I was just wondering.
Aw, that's horrible.
Yeah, it was a thing. That's for sure.
I think it was an existential crisis for like society.
It was
for like a few days there.
Absolutely.
Like it caused trust issues. Like nobody trusted each other for like a good week.
I don't even know, like, and I don't think anyone even like trusted themselves necessarily. Like that, it was like a very much a like. Scary. Especially for because so for me, when I saw the picture first, I saw the dress as white gold.
Okay.
And, but like once the process or like what was happening was explained to me, I was able to see it as black and blue. And
I think the same thing happened to me, which is why I don't remember.
Yeah, and like I've never been able to go back, and that was like a really interesting, like just a perception thing, because I remember how I saw it previously. But yeah, I can't go back. Like I can't walk that back in my brain. So now I just see the dress as blue and black in that picture. Yeah, it's weird. Perception's weird. Yeah. So what did we actually want to talk about in this episode? The funniest part too is we also talked about like setting a time limit or like trying to keep this down to a certain amount of time. And then we didn't talk about it before we started this episode, and now we're pushing up against like the only number that I remember, which is 40 minutes, and we still haven't even like gotten to a thing that we were even thinking about talking about.
We barely said hi. Like we've already done like our version of what we could possibly do as like one podcast has just been like us vamping on like the dumbest shit, like surveys, fireplaces, and the dress color.
Yeah, it's a meme that is almost like a year old now at this point. More than a year old, actually.
That's so bad. Okay. Well, you know what? How about we do this? Because for anyone who's, curious about the logistics of how this works, we're doing this like apart again. I think we mentioned that. So we're not sitting across from each other, which is why there's this, like simultaneously, we are like more conversational. We talk over each other worse when it happens. And also like there's longer periods of silence. Like there's so many dynamics to doing it this way that make us sound better in some ways and way worse in others, I think.
That's true.
And then
the silence is an interesting thing because I actually trim that out as part of my post-production. So like that actually remains fairly constant, I think.
Well, that's cool. Yeah. At least that's not something they are subjected to. But yet what they'll still hear is me always being like, what did you say? Oh, what was that? Oh, can you say that again?
You could put headphones in. That would actually make it much more manageable, but you don't like having me in your head, so.
No, I was not. I did not like that at all. That was very uncomfortable. I barely like having me in my head. There's a lot of, like, we think the way we talk, right? Like, there's a lot going on up there.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't need it from my own head, and I don't need you in my thoughts, too. Like, I guarantee you that me is overwhelming enough.
All right, without any way of ever knowing that, I'm willing to believe you. All right, so we have I believe two things that we could potentially talk about.
So then, do you want to just kind of bring it up, and then this will be the end of this one? And so, like, the reason I started talking about the format is so that for anyone listening, this will be the end of the podcast, and then tune in next time. Like, we could always post them together as like a double, but then we could start again and actually like pick up with the topics we meant to talk about, if that makes sense.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good to me. Now that we've worked this out of our system, whatever this is.
And we can't have any distracting thoughts in the next, say, like minute and a half that it's going to take us to stop this and start a new one. And so then one of us doesn't start it, and then you're like, oh, hey, I had this thought the other day.
Well, that just sounds like a challenge to me, but all right, we'll go with that. This has been a Continuous Chaos mini episode, I guess.
Do you not want to talk about the topics before we sign off?
Do we,
or
okay, yeah, we can do that too. Okay, so
I don't know what's better.
Well, you brought it up, so we're gonna do it now. We're doing it live.
People just hate us at this point.
Listen, I don't think they're coming to this podcast because of our incredibly structured response to anything. So
it's because we're charming.
If anything, they should be used to this by now.
They would at some point. People are going to miss this. Like if we got better at it by like episode 50, once we like know what we're doing, people are going to be like, "Gosh, I miss the good old days when they had no idea what the fuck they were doing."
See, that's something that might actually be interesting to talk about. Is like, because like so many TV shows and stuff kind of ruin themselves by being on too long and kind of refining themselves to the point where like it's not the same as how they started. What if like the net result of this podcast is that like in a year or 2 years or whatever, we come out of this as like much better conversationalists or whatever, and we lose that original, like we lose our namesake of just like insane chaos happening all the time.
Okay, well, I'm just going to remind you that we've known each other for like 4 years now, and we still are friends the same way we used to be. Like nothing, like personal growth, evolution, graduating, like having different jobs, like nothing in life has made us be better at this so far.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. I don't know.
But I think
we'll
we're all safe, everybody.
Yeah, stay with us over the next year or two and see what happens.
That's the motivation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey.
Okay. So what did you want to talk about next?
Okay, so the one thing that I had in my notes was compartmentalization, which we mentioned in an earlier episode. It was like the first or the second. I can't remember which one it was at this point because I took notes, but like not that great notes. Which was brought up because I was talking about how I play a lot of video games and watch a lot of violent, terrible movies, and I thought that I compartmentalized pretty well. The second,
okay, interesting.
Yeah. The second thing, I believe you messaged me earlier today, was the Matt Damon thing. So those are the two that come to my mind immediately.
Oh, okay. So I'm going through my notes, and I had that written down, and I didn't know if we were going to touch on the Matt Damon thing because it's like a new thing. I remember the compartmentalization thing was something that's definitely on the docket that we were going to talk about. I want to talk about, let's talk about the Matt Damon thing. It might get kind of hairy, but we'll try. Just like not least of which because like the actual article I read was like a disaster, and what he said is kind of a disaster, and
Sure.
Us talking about it is not going to make that better. Anyway, I want to talk to you about Chris D'Elia and his podcast.
Okay.
I think I said his name wrong. I always fuck up his name. He's never going to be our friend if I can't say his name.
That's true.
Is it Delia or Delia?
Well, see, the problem is I think that I've heard both, but I think it's Chris D'Elia. Did they ever say his name out loud? Did he ever say his name when we went to a show?
Well, you know what? That's not a fucking excuse for me because I just listened to an episode of his actual podcast yesterday.
Yeah, all right.
And now that I've admitted that, he's really not going to be my friend. So, Chris, I'm sorry. Your name to me is just going to be Chris because I don't know how to say your last name.
Maybe this is the end. Maybe he hears this podcast and then he sends us a message is like, "Hey, fuckers, it's Delia," or whatever. And then that's
you know
how
what?
we start.
Fuck. You know what, Chris? If I'm talking right to you, no one gets my fucking last name right. So we're in a club together, and I mean, I know how it feels, which is why I feel like shit that I can't say his last name. Like, I really do. I have a silent S in my last name. Yeah, a silent S. So there's that. No one can get it right. And yeah, like, I get it. I understand your pain, and I'm sorry that I'm contributing to it, but I still want to be your friend, Chris. Whatever your last name is.
I guess I'm kind of in that boat too. Actually, no one's gotten my last name right on the first try. Everyone gets my first name right. It's Scott. That's.
I mean, even my first name, people. Oh, this happened to me yesterday. Somebody was like, so it's SEA is how you spell my name, and so she was like, I said EA because she said, is it SEY? And I said SEA. And the response was, oh, so it's SEAEY or SEYEA? And I'm like, what the fuck name is that?
Had they ever met someone who spelled it EAEY?
I just thought that, like, there's a lot of Chelseas out there. It's a pretty common name. It might not be as common as Scott, but it's pretty common. And living my life, I just thought that I could just say EA and they would understand where those letters went in their misspelling of it, you know, because like they'll spell it and they'll stumble at the end, and then I just say EA. I don't have to respell the whole name.
Yeah,
but then there's the people.
My assumption.
People will, because I spell it EA. So people know that if it's spelled EY or IE, people know that that says Chelsea.
Right.
But apparently, like mine is the British spelling. I think I don't really know. I don't know. I don't have an excuse for why people don't know how to say my name, but I get Chelsea more than you'd think.
Huh. Because that's
the
name
that people don't know
that people get called.
Like people don't know what sound vowels make.
When you put them all together like that, yeah, it's confusing.
Yeah, like there's no way you can pronounce my name, Chelsea. Like it's you just no. And I've had people that are like, are you sure it's not spelt with a Y or an I if that's how you pronounce? Like they're like asking me if my parents were aware that they spelt it in such a way that didn't sound the way that it like I mean I was like a fully grown adult and I had a conversation with someone who was like, I'm pretty sure the way you spell your name is not how it's pronounced.
Huh. That's I don't even know how to do anything with that.
I don't think I was like in a good headspace when I had that conversation, but like I was really close to just being like fuck you and walking away because like I'm like, we've been having this conversation for too long and you're a stranger and you're telling me I don't know how to pronounce my own name. So like, leave, go away.
And
like,
really,
why?
like, what do you say to that? Like there's
yeah, like what do you want from me? Like, what's your name? Let's make fun of it now. Like
well, I just wonder like, yeah, I just wonder what like the win condition was in his head. Like, is it just
it was that I go, oh my God, you've like helped me. Like you've saved me. Thank you. After 20 plus years of pronouncing my name wrong, because you told me this, like I'm enlightened. Thank you. Like, I think that maybe is what they were looking for.
All right.
That's not what happened. But anyways, yeah. If Chris, I'm afraid. What are we agreeing that it is?
I'm just gonna say Dalia, and then yeah, and then if he contacts us to correct, then mission accomplished.
It's
really.
Chris Dalia, and he can call us out on it. We've already talked about him significantly in this one, so we're going to talk about it again in the next one. But he has a podcast, and I didn't know that, so I want to talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about Matt Damon if you want. And then we've talked a lot in this one so far about listening and communication. And I have a podcast that I watched recently-ish that I only partly remember that we're going to try to talk about. And I might butcher everything about it. But
I thought you said you didn't listen to podcasts.
I don't, but we brought this up. Oh, sorry, it wasn't a podcast. It was a TED Talk.
Oh, okay.
I listened to Chris's podcast because he's like, well, him. And yeah.
Actually, if anything good comes out of this, instead of the fireplace hashtag, like we should start like a bring back undateable hashtag. I think that would be the most productive use of this podcast.
I like that. This could be like, well, yeah, it's the officially unofficial, like How I Met Your Mother and Undateable and kind of Whitney.
By extension.
Podcast. Yeah, like it's like the weirdest combination podcast, but yeah, I miss him. I miss him in my life, even though he never was. But I miss him on my TV.
And we're getting there. Starting with when he contacts us to tell us how to say his name.
I mean, hey, I would. Are you saying that like you wouldn't be happy unless Undateable comes back, or could you like make peace with him like giving us a shout out?
No, I'd be okay with that too. Yeah, no, I'd be willing to listen. I don't have a lot of clear objectives around this podcast, so like really anything would already exceed kind of where I'm at.
I want like I don't
the fun of this.
I don't want it to just stop at a shout out though. Like if he wanted to like be our friend, that's like fine too. If he wants to like hang out with us when he's in the city. Apparently he was filming something in Vancouver. So like he's around.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, he's like right there.
Like if he wants, like he has got friends in Edmonton, #YAG. Like come be our friend and give us a shout out. Do both things.
Yeah, if you're out there, Chris, and I know you are. Or will
because I'm gonna set up our Twitter and we're gonna start talking on bugging him and we talked about you on our podcast.
Spamming at mentions at Chris.
Oh, he has no idea what's about to happen. This poor man.
I'm so sorry, Chris. for everything that's about to happen. I hope that he hears this first.
Happening. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we'll talk about him in the next one, but I hope he tunes into this one, which means he gets to hear kind of what a terrible, embarrassing rebel I am.
His introduction to you as a person is filling out a survey for a neighborhood that you don't currently live in, and then and then us talking about how we can't say his name or don't.
I really don't like that because he's such a cool person and I'm not cool enough. And you know what? That story, for as much as I'm not cool, that story makes me sound way, way worse.
Oh man. Now I actually like I genuinely hope that we do become friends over this. This is gonna be a hell of a bonding experience.
Just because the two of you would like never let me live it down.
Oh no, yeah,
I suddenly don't like this idea.
I think if it works out, like I would be forced to do a stand-up set like on this entire encounter. Like I think that would be how my stand-up career gets launched, is just telling this story.
Thank you. That's nice of you. You're a kind friend.
We get to hang out with more comedians. That would be a side benefit.
Oh, that would be awesome. I mean, I respect him isolated, but like if he could help me meet Whitney Cummings, then like I could die happy.
Yeah, there we go.
And like,
so all
we're
this
just
and more.
Gonna end on that fact. Like, I really just she's a cool human, and like the reason I'll talk about that in the next one, but she's just a cool human, and I really respect the hell out of the fact that she can be a funny person and a funny woman, and she can also be like feminist as hell and like funny, and she doesn't have to sacrifice either one, and I love that about her. She's awesome.
Sure, she's a super funny lady. All right, all that and more probably on the next episode of Continuous Chaos.
We don't have a Twitter yet, so I won't say our handle because we have to argue about what it's going to be still.
Oh yeah, we haven't landed on that yet. But if you or anyone you know, chaos. Yeah, if you or anyone you know has a connection to Chris D'Elia, let us know at thoughts@continuouschaos.ca.
Or if you are Chris D'Elia.
Oh yeah, then just email us. Yeah, you don't need to like put us in touch with a friend. Actually, put us in touch with Brent Morin. I'd hang out with that guy.
Oh, there's so many cool people that he knows. But also, Chris, we love you just as you. Like we're not just using you to get to your friends. You're a pretty cool dude, and we want you to come hang out with us in Edmonton.
All right, well, until next time, this has been Continuous Chaos. Bye.
Bye.